Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Pay Podcast. Today, we're just going to do an review video. And before we start for today, go ahead and pick yourself up. Thomas Jefferson, The Art of Power by John McCain. I think, it's really good for us to learn about our history, especially about world leaders. So go ahead and pick yourself that. And of course, everyone should pick up their own Bible. I have the Student Study Bible ESV. Go ahead and pick yourself up a Bible and read it. And before we get into discussing our movie today, we are going to be discussing about our movie. This is about the history of it, not the actual movie yet. Obviously, today we're going to be talking about Frankenstein's army. Now, I want to give you guys a little bit of history on this film. So obviously the Frankenstein monsters that you see on that cover, um, he started making those creatures with pen and paper when he was a kid in school back in 12th grade. He would do it, and his main inspiration for these creatures were actually from Star Wars, with C-3PO and R2-D2 being his main creations. So this film started off as worst case scenario. Now you can go ahead and watch that trailer, but unfortunately the movie got canceled because there was a lot of issues with production and stuff like that. And so obviously they moved to Frankenstein's army. It had a budget of $1 million, and it only made $80,000 back in the box office. My only guess to its flop was number one, there was not much advertising for it, like at all, like barely any advertising for it. Um, and on top of that, it was probably because maybe it came out while other bigger films were out. That could be also the case. This film was made back in 2013, so um, and another thing is he actually made a Kickstarter. Um, and this Kickstarter was to get the money to make a comic book out of worst case scenario, what the film was gonna be frame by frame. And if he would have made over $1 million, he would have actually made the worst case scenario film. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. He just made enough money to make the comic book, and he distributed out those comic books. And depending on how much money you spent, you got like a statue of like one of the creatures, like heads and stuff. And yeah, unfortunately, you can't buy that comic book anywhere. The only way that I actually know about its existence is off of some random like website about like comic books. And another thing, obviously the Kickstarter. You can actually go see what the Kickstarter had. There was a couple of other items too. But yeah, he did eventually make worst case scenario, but in just a comic book. They all look pretty sick. I'm honestly kind of sad that I never got the opportunity to donate to that, because I would love to have that comic, or at least would have loved to have that worst case scenario movie. But anyway, and he also has a website called Wayfrost. Richard Wayfrost is the guy who, of course, made Frankenstein's Army, and the guy that we've been talking about. He's a Dutch indie film guy, right? He made like a bunch of like Dutch like commercials. He made like short films before he made Frankenstein's Army. In fact, his most recent short film is called Gnome, and that was back in like one of the 2020 something years. So, and that film actually got nominated. Actually won at one of the indie short film contest. And just in recent years, he made a small, like a very small studio of like other Dutch indie filmmakers. It's called Mad Scientist. You can only follow them on Instagram. I think they have a website, but there's not much on there. Um, and then and another film that Richard Wayfors is making, his next feature length film is gonna be Child of the Mole, which is a it's based on Dutch folklore, so I'm definitely excited to watch that. I'm excited for any project that Richard Wayfors is gonna make or anything that Mad Scientist is going to make. Um, but yeah, just be on the lookout for those if you guys would be interested at the end of this video. Now, to get the meat out of the way with Frankenstein's army. What are my thoughts on this film? What do I think? And what are the pros and the cons? So, you know what? How about I actually read the back off of this movie? So, I'm just gonna go ahead and quote that back on the back right here. Just because I just think it does a good explanation of the movie. In the dying days of World War II, a bata a battalion of Soviet soldiers find themselves lost in enemy territory, stumbling upon a village dismantled by an unseen terror. They're lured into the secret lab of a deranged scientist and forced to face off against the army of horrific flesh and metal war machines. A nightmarish fantasy thrill ride unlike any other. Richard Wayfrost Frankenstein Army is a delirious plunge into the darkest depths of insanity. Um, it is a found footage film, so which I love. I love the aesthetic of that in this film. I thought it worked great for the film, honestly, because especially for like more indie films, there's a lot of like tight, narrow corridors in this film. So it's like it would definitely be hard to get shots if you were to do it like the regular way. I love the found footage aesthetic though. I thought it added a lot to this movie. The creature designs were amazing in the film. I love the creature designs. They're so unique. Each of them are unique in their own way, and I love that so much. It's so creative. I love it. I really do love it. It's amazing. Um, Obviously you follow the Soviet soldiers that we read on the back, and I have to say none of the characters are likable in the movie. Obviously, because it's about World War II with the Soviets and the Germans. But I have to say, I definitely kind of felt bad for the Soviets going through the crap that they're going through in this film. Um, if you guys, don't really care about like an character in a horror film, hey, you know what, watch it. But if you guys do care about it, I should still watch it just because of its uniqueness to the film. I think the uniqueness of it really sells this movie. And if you guys didn't know, RE8, Resident Evil 8, actually stole and plagiarized one of the Frankenstein's army characters right here. I don't know if you can guys see that. It's the propeller head. If you guys can't see it, just look it up yourselves. So basically, the propeller head is one of the things that the Soviet people meet. Um, And if you guys don't know, years later, Resident Evil 8 Village came out, and it had the exact same character, and it died the exact same way as it did in the film. And Richard Wayforce stated that he was actually a little pissed off about that. Capcom Capcom says, "Oh, bro, like we didn't know." Okay, but like you didn't know, like you're willing to copyright other people, and yet you're allowed to plagiarize people. Yeah, no, go screw yourself, Capcom. Go screw yourself. Um. Anyway, But I think another thing that this film does fantastic, I think the guy who played Frankenstein right here, the madman who created these creatures, he is such a good Frankenstein. Like, I love how he plays Frankenstein. I just love it. He gets an entire monologue towards the end. You actually don't see him towards the end, but he is just such a good Frankenstein. I loved it. Basically, he's a Nazi working for the Germans and making these dead Nazi soldiers alive back again. You get to see how that whole process is done in the movie. I thought the movie was really well done. Obviously because I felt like most of the budget especially went towards the production quality, the props, and definitely the costumes. I mean, the costumes look amazing for a $1 million, not billion, dollar budget. It looks so freaking good, honestly. Um, and I really felt like most of the production went to that, which I was happy about. I thought the creatures looked amazing. I say really the only bad thing about this film is that there was like barely any death in it, surprisingly. I mean, you see a lot of like body parts throughout the film. You see, but you barely see like people getting unalived in the film, which I was kind of disappointed about because it kind of felt more like a haunted house ride because of that. But if I'm being honest, it didn't really subtract from the experience. It was just something that I would like to see more of. But when people do die in the film, it is gory. Like it is gory, dude. Like you get to see entire portions like brain. Like that's how gory it gets. Which I was happy that the kills were at least like gory and stuff. Um, I have to say, man, like altogether, this film is an easy 8 out of 10. I love this film. Just like with An Lun, this film stuck with me for months and it still sticks with me to this day because of just how unique it is. I love unique films like this that really, that really just stand out among the West. And An Lun, Frankenstein's Army is that film. And I love this film to death. I recommend anyone to watch this film. Go ahead, pick yourself up a copy. Um, Funny enough, how we heard about this film was me and my dad were watching previews on like a DVD, right? We were just seeing what movies would just pop up that we might like. And then we saw this advertisement. Never seen an advertisement for this, and we never even heard of it. As soon as we like saw that preview, my dad immediately bought it off of Amazon on Blu-ray for like $12. I don't know if it's still on Amazon, but it's a great movie. It was made in 2013. It's 84 minutes long. I thought the film was perfectly paced. I thought the pacing was great. It's distributed by Dark Sky Films and XYZ Films, whatever they did. Um, and honestly, it really is a great film. Anyway, and I recommend it to people who are into like horror. I recommend it to people who are into like indie films, like more unique type of films. Definitely recommend it for those type of people. Definitely, if you're a Frankenstein fan, I think you appreciate how unique this film is to that kind of series. You ever like Frankenstein stuff. It really stands out in that regard. Um, anyway, I'll see you guys next week. See ya.